Let's start out with the power supply. It's very similar to the other porthole sets I've been doing lately. I have one 3-section filter cap here, which pretty clearly has vented. So I'm not going to think about reforming that. I'll take it out right now. And we have this power resistor, which is crumbly and miserable. We'll take those out. That doesn't leave a whole lot. There is a resistor that got covered with capacitor juices, and we have one paper cap here, and that's it. So let's take care of all that stuff. Been working on the power supply. It's quite rusty, still is quite rusty. I wanted to remove that before I install the new caps. I'm kind of on the fence though, because it's still pretty bad, and it's all kind of in and around under nooks and crannies and underneath as well. So I'm kind of on the fence about, should I just remove everything and dunk the whole chassis in evapor rust? Now this is bolted down. I can remove these screws and get that off easily enough, but everything else is riveted. Not a big deal. I just need to drill them out. So a transformer down there. I got this choke up here, and then 3 tube sockets. Yeah, see this? It's pretty bad. And you may think that's a lot of work. Using navel jelly and getting in and out all the nooks and crannies and trying to get under this transform or choke and all, that's also a ton of work. And it's not that big a deal to drill these out and put some new cap head screws in there to reattach them. And there's not a whole lot going on underneath this chassis. That's what I'm leaning towards. In fact, I've already decided that I will do it. What I'm not so sure about is, should I just tack this in so we can try to get this thing up and running before I bother to tear this down and rebuild it. That I'm more inclined to do. While I pondered that, I wanted to talk about a tip I got from a viewer that's fantastic. So this is an Adaptacap. It's a little circuit board where you can mount new individual electrolytic capacitors. Mounting holes line up with the old cap. I drilled out the rivets and you can screw it down, and if you're so inclined you can remove the cardboard cover from this. Sometimes it requires a little bit of heating because there'll be a blob of tire in there, and you can hide the caps underneath this cover. Well, when it comes to reattaching on the other side, in the past what I've done is, you see all the connections down there, is put a big blob of solder on these and push the wires down into it, or strip them and insert them in the little holes there. Well, the tip was, hey, the positive lead of the new cap, leave it long, put a little bit of insulating heat shrink tubing over a section of it and make a loop on the top, make a little eyelet. Then you can attach your new wires to that. So I may give that a try. But there's also something else I was thinking about doing. This is something else I've seen folks do, which is to take an eyelet, a crimp type connector, where you would normally stick wires going through there and then crimp it, and then you can attach this to a screw terminal. Well, if we cut this off, we'll be left with a little lug with a base on it. Get this off without destroying anything. And I think we can attach this to the Adaptacap as well. And so, fill this reservoir up with some solder and stick it down in there. In fact, we can even use one of these positive leads as a guide and attach that down. And then we get a nice eyelet that we can put our new wire into. And if you're wondering, will that be strong enough? Yeah, this is really high quality board material. It's double-sided plated through, and there's a generous pad for where the positive lugs go. So if you load this up with solder and push it down into that, that's going to be on there pretty solidly. And then you get a nice lug where you can fit in your components or leads and whatnot. So yeah, I think I will invest in picking up 100 or so of these and experiment with that. This is actually working out quite well. I've just been sliding them on, leaving that existing capacitor lead sticking up. Taking a clean, hot soldering iron tip, putting it up against the side of the solder lug, or sorry, the wire lug crimp thing, whatever you call these. Load it up with some solder, and use a needle nose plier to get it in the exact position I want. I'm heating up the pads down below, and that's all there is to it. Let me just cut off this extra lead we don't need here. And there we go. These aren't going anywhere. Now, yes, if you attach wires to these and heat these up too much, you could loosen that up on the bottom. So I'd suggest maybe you pre-tin these a little bit. These actually, I think, are tinned a little bit. They take solder really easily. See, this one's a little bit crooked. And while doing this, I just using the hole where the original one used to be to hold it in place. A vise would probably be a little bit handier. So this one got bent over a little bit. There we go. Alright. So, yeah. I don't know that I'll always do this, but absolutely it's possible. It's quite easy to do them, and bulk these aren't going to cost very much at all. And be a heck of a lot easier for reattaching stuff, especially components. Like, for example, there's a resistor that's supposed to go between two of these. And having these lugs up gives me a lot more freedom to attach stuff to them. I tried briefly getting this off. Sometimes if you're lucky, you can just do that and they come loose, but not so much. And I do want to attempt to reuse it because it says Zenith on it. And it's got the nice symbols and voltages and whatnot, but no hope of salvaging that cap, that's for sure. Sometimes there's a little blob or a little bit of a tar on the side. Sometimes it's all at the end. And I've shown this plenty of times. Use a heat gun, put it in the toaster oven, put it out in the hot sun if you're in the south, and eventually it will soften up and you can twist this and get it off. Well, there's no turning back now. I've started drilling out the rivets. Got both terminal strips freed up, one tube socket. Got one more to go. This guy's a little bit challenging because the rivets on the other side of that. I haven't quite decided how I'll get at it. One could be really careful and try to go right through that hole, but it doesn't quite line up, so I think I got to go in at an angle. Might have to get out a Dremel tool, the grinding bit or something. Similarly, this is a bit difficult to get at because the rivet goes from that side, and the part I would normally drill out is on the inside, and I can't get at that very nicely because of the edge of the chassis. I can try to get it at an angle, but I don't know how effective that's going to be. But one way or another, we'll get that out. So all that's well and good, and get all this stuff loosened up, but here's the drag. The wires for the transformer come up through this and attach over to these. So I can free up all this stuff just fine, but I can't remove it because it has to go through this hole, so I have to disconnect all the transformer leads. Took tons of reference photos, so I need to disconnect the stuff going to the socket, and a few wires like going to the output transformer, all of which go through this hole over here, and there's a little bit of metal wrapping around as a strain relief. Got to undo that. And we should be in good shape to start removing the rust. And I think I'll paint this. It's something I don't often do, but because there really aren't any connections to the metal, I think this will be just fine doing that. What do I mean by that? I mean, in some cases you'll see parts that are tack soldered directly to this, or parts that come through and they have solder all around them, holding them in place. In other words, they're using this as a grounding point. Whereas in this, actually, I think this is floating. I don't think it's really used as a grounding point, like on these terminal strips where there's the lug going to the chassis. There are no parts going to it. I don't think there's an electrical connection. I don't think there are any electrical connections to this metal. So I don't mind painting it, which would potentially be an insulator or get in the way, or I might have to scrape some away to make a good electrical contact. I don't have to worry about that. Alright, so transformer, we just have 4 nuts here. That's easy enough. I think I might be out of evapor rust. That's the only real hitch I've encountered so far. I may have to go pick some up. But I think my local auto supply store has some. Shouldn't need very much. After drilling out all the rivets, removing all the parts, rust dissolver, clean metal primer, specialty appliance epoxy silver. This is really noxious stuff, but it makes a really durable coating. I sprayed this about 10 hours ago. It's dry to the touch. I can start reassembling right away. There is a little bit of rust on these transformers though, so I'm going to hold off on those and do a little treatment on them, maybe repaint this guy. But the rest of the stuff I can get back to work on. And I was incorrect earlier. There are 2 transformer wires that go to a lug on this terminal strip that was riveted to the chassis. In other words, they are connected to this metal, or should be. So I'm going to have to scrape away the paint and make sure I get good contact. I'll use a locking washer with teeth on it and make sure it bites into this metal. But otherwise I think we're in good shape. Should be easy enough to pop these back in, and I will use little cap head screws with the hex head, or Allen wrench rather, to reattach everything. Should be fun. I took lots of reference photos, especially this transformer. It was not fun or pleasant to disconnect everything, knowing I was going to just reconnect it all right back. Some of the original wire color had faded a little, or the stripes had faded. Like this, I think, was orange and white originally. So I did take some markers and colored some of them blue, black, red, so I can distinguish them a little bit. Here's a look underneath the rebuilt power supply and audio amp chassis. Everything has been rewired, all new components installed. Those eyelets on the adapter cap did work out great, but you do need to be careful. On one of these, when I was soldering in the new connection, it did heat it up too much and it released from the circuit board. But needle nose pliers, a little bit of heat, and pushed it back down to the solder, and it's just fine. They're all on there very solidly. Nothing is in any, no chance of anything shorting into anything else, so I think we are good to go with this. And there we have it. Surely not something I would do every day, but it does look a lot nicer, I think. Especially happy with the way the transformer turned out. The original electrolytic I threw in the oven at 225 for about 15 minutes, which loosened up the tar inside, and there was quite a bit of it. So now I can hide the new caps underneath. I'll just use some bubble wrap or some similar wadding to give it a little bit of pressure around the outside of those new caps to hold that in place. I'm not going to glue it or anything in case I ever want to get back in there and examine those caps or swap them out. So that's it. Now we can proceed to work on the main chassis.